Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to you guys that are out on the West Coast. My name is Andy Cummings, and I am the program manager for our Boomtown Coaching Services. And we are very excited to bring with you today one of our favorite coaches and a boomer that's been with us for quite some time now and who's got some great knowledge and expertise, Jeff Cohn. So Jeff is going to be with us today talking about how to track results from conversations to close. If you have participated or heard Jeff speak in the past, you know that he has a great, deep analytical mindset, and he's going to share with you today some of his best practices, some of his tools, and some of the ways that he actually sets goals and gets ready to go into 2018. All right, before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping here. We have a great group today, so what we're going to be doing is holding questions until the end. So feel free, however, to put those in the chat window, and JC will be here to help answer some of your questions as we proceed. But we will open it up at the end for some questions, and if we don't get your question on the broadcast today, we will be following up with you and sending you individual answers for your particular question. We also want to thank everybody for being here. This is a 45-minute webinar. This session is being recorded, and we'll be happy to provide the link to the recording after the session. Again, so welcome aboard. We're going to go ahead and get started. A few things to be thinking about, what we're going to talk about today. So this is going to all be around making sure that we can track and plan for our lead goals into 2018. And the way that we get started with that is really just trying to figure out what is the right way to engage and have a conversation with our leads. So as soon as a lead comes into your database, Jeff is going to share with us really what's the highest level of engaging with that lead, and how do we actually get a conversation started, and what does he and his team do to use some best practices for communicating with those leads. Then we're also going to really jump right in and talk about how you're tracking your lead spend. You know, are you aware of where your lead spend is diversified? Are you actually investing your spend in the right lead sources? So Jeff has a proven methodology where he actually reverse engineers what his goals are and compares that against his lead sources to be able to identify where he should be investing his money. So we're going to talk a lot about how to really track your lead spend, and if you're not tracking lead spend today, we're going to show you the way that Jeff does his. Then what we're going to do is really talk about business planning into 2018. So now is the time to be setting what your goals are and what those goals are specifically by your different lead sources. So we're going to actually take a look at if we know our transactional number that we want to hit going into next year, how do we reverse engineer that into having the best prospecting efforts to be able to hit those goals. So it really starts out at the beginning from just engaging with the client. And how do we engage, create a conversation? How many conversations does it take till I get the appointment? How many appointments is required till I get a contract? And of course, what happens once I get the contract, and do we close the deal? So we're actually going to look at Jeff's real-time statistics using his Gecko board that actually provides both sales and call stats to his team real-time, and he's going to share that with you as well today. And then the last thing we're going to cover is really talking about your favorite word, accountability. All right, so as we go into 2018, there's one way to obviously hold yourself accountable, but how do we also hold the agents that work for us accountable? What are some of the methods that Jeff uses to make sure that his team is not just hitting goals monthly, but weekly and even daily goals? So we're going to talk about accountability and what that looks like on Jeff's team. But first, I just want to introduce our speaker today. First of all, a big shout out and a welcome to Jeff Cohn. Jeff has been with Boomtown for 6 years now, and he's going to share with you, when he first started, he was doing about 60 units a year. Jeff, I think you're on track now for almost 750, 780 is what the Gecko board looks like right now. So he's going to share with you how he's grown his business, specifically with Boomtown at the hub of his operations. He is Omaha's #1 real estate team, and he has a passion for building a team. So Jeff has about 40 people that work with him now. He has teams and sub-teams within his team, and one of the ways he's able to really recruit and attract some of the best talent in Omaha is because he is such a thought-provoking trainer. He invests a lot of time in recruiting and retention, but a big part of that goes into training, and so he's opened up his own coaching business as well that's available to you. So Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you now, but let's just get started with just right out of the gate. We know that it starts with creating a very compelling conversation. All right, so take us through when a lead hits into your database, right, and on your site and registers, what is the methods that you use to really get a good conversation going? Are you tracking conversations? And really, who is the person making that conversation and that attempt in even the first 24 hours?
Perfect. Thank you, Andy. And thanks for, let's just dive right in. I love it. I know we don't have a lot of time, and there was a lot of topics that we're going to cover. First off, it's a pleasure to be here today. Going back 6 years ago, 2011, before signing up for Boomtown, I never dreamed that our team would be at, doing 700. I think we're at 765 units to date this year. It's pretty amazing, and I'm very grateful to all the people that have helped us get here. Obviously, Boomtown's played a huge role in that. It's interesting with the question you asked and how to build these strong relationships with people we've never met. When I was a Rainmaker agent leading into 2011, doing 60 deals a year and still doing well as an agent, but working 60 hours a week, I found that it was really easy to work referrals and people that were part of my sphere of influence because I had a relationship with them. The disconnect that a lot of agents take for granted is that when an internet lead comes in, we have yet to create a relationship of trust. And people do business with people who they know, like, and trust. So our number one goal, the very first time we ever make contact via text, instant message, email, or phone, and phone is always best, is to build a relationship. So how do you do that with a stranger? We recommend to our agents to try to get a hold, like Boomtown has recommended, get a hold of the lead while they're actually on the site. That means that every lead that registers, you should be contacting them within 1 to 5 minutes. And so it's the expectation of our team, whoever's on lead day, has to physically be at the office between 10 a.m. in the morning and 8 p.m. at night. And that's there's a 30-day rotation. We have 30 agents plugged into that. If you're a 5-agent team, I would recommend taking turns every 5 days. They have a certain period of time that they're physically in the office reaching out to the lead. If the lead doesn't answer the first call attempt, we make 2 more call attempts within that lead day, and we have the agent send a text at the end of the day if they were never able to make contact with the lead, and also send an email. Of course, they then, if they're part of Boomtown, which all of our agents are, they're going to reach out via Smart Drip and listing e-alerts. And so everyone's going to be getting automated Smart Drips every single day. They're also going to be getting the initial email from the agent, and we recommend that the initial email is custom based on where the lead came from, so that they don't think that it's a drip email, they don't think it's a bot. And so you can make mention of the houses they were looking at, or you can make mention of the website that they came into your site off of. But I think the key is that when you finally do get engagement, the whole conversation needs to be around the value that you as the agent, the professional in the industry, can offer to the lead. And so you need them to listen long enough, just like I'm speaking now like a straight 3 minutes, you need them to listen long enough that they actually connect with you and think, oh wow, this person actually is going to be able to offer me value. And where a lot of agents miss the bucket, or miss the mark I should say, is they don't have a 1, 2, 3 punch. And what I mean by that is we train our agents to have an ABC close. So if they turn you down on the first close, which I would say would be asking someone to meet in person, and they say, hey, no, we're too far out, the second close is going to say, well, would it be all right if I sent you automatic email updates and of any home that hits the market that meets your criteria? If they shoot that down, then you should have a third, a fourth, and a fifth. I mean, you can go down the line. You should continue offering them something of value so that you can continue that relationship. And the interesting fact and analytical number is that we have found the average person that registers on Boomtown doesn't go under contract for 5 months. So it's a 5-month relationship building project to be able to convert internet leads. It's not just going to happen. I mean, there's one-offs, but on the average, it's not just going to happen within that first conversation. You go show a house that week and then they buy a house.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, and obviously, there is the difference if they are a different type of lead source, and so cultivating and nurturing that lead is very important. You talk about building trust and empathy and likability straight in that first conversation, and diversifying your message each time you try to contact them. But a lot of times we're asked, Andy, how many times am I supposed to try to get in touch with this lead? What's the number that you have found, Jeff, that really works well for you guys in your market?
So we're never going to stop giving up reaching out to the lead. In the first 14 days, the agents are required to call the lead a total of 10 times if they're not responding. Of course, if they respond, then we're done calling them in that first 2-week period. And the real goal is to determine how long till they'll be buying or selling a house. So we use the Boomtown categories: hot, nurture, watch, archive. Hot is anyone ready to go now. And I always make the joke, if you have a hot date coming up, it's not a very hot date if you don't have a time scheduled to meet the date. So anyone in the hot category, you need to have a hot date on your calendar of when you're going to be doing a listing presentation or a buyer presentation, or take them out to look at property. Anyone in nurture is going to be someone that indicates on that first call connect that they're going to be buying or selling in 3 to 6 months. Anyone in watch is anyone that indicates they're going to be buying or selling in 6 to 12. And anyone in archive is going to be anyone that we don't think is going to be buying a house in the next year. And then we've set expectations of how often our agents need to communicate with each lead depending on which category they're in. So if they're in hot, they have to have an appointment set. If they're in nurture, they have to call every 2 weeks even though the person has indicated they're 3 months out, we're calling every 2 weeks to check in to show them we care about them. If they're in watch, we're calling once a month, again, to show them we care about them, even though they're 6 months out. But if they're brand new and we've never talked to them, they're going to be in qualify. After the first day, they go to qualify for 13 days. And the agent obviously called 3 times the first day. Now they're going to call 7 more times the next 13 days. And they can call all 7 times in the second day, or they can call every other day up to the 14th day. But net, the agent needs to have called any new lead a total of 10 times. After their 10th call, if there's been no contact, they need to text them a second time and leave them a second voicemail with complete transparency of their intent of trying to connect with them. And then after that, we're going to move the lead into archive not contacted. And we have messaging designed for not contacted leads. And then we have an archive contacted with messaging designed for people that we have been able to get in touch with that simply indicated that they'd be more than a year out. And that drip campaign runs for over 10 years. And then, of course, we take advantage of your Boomtown Now wall, because a lot of our leads, we have over 200,000 leads over the last 6 years that we've added to our Boomtown platform. So we have leads all the time coming out of archive, and that's one main source my agents are focusing in on. And then we also use virtual assistants to help assist with that as well.
Excellent. Yeah. So a couple of key points there that I'm thinking that definitely resonated. You know, you do stay in touch with them, and specifically you said that we are making 10 attempts at calling the lead. So a lot of times we find that those attempts need to be diverse, you know, a blend of call, text, and email. But one of the things that really hinders some of these conversation starters is that if we're just using email or if we're just using text, definitely advising other agents that it really is about making the call, right, Jeff?
Yep. You know, I think that there's some great books that are out there, but 7 Levels of Communication by Michael Mayer is the one that hops out at me. And he talks about how there's the influential zone and then the information zone. And information zone is used with emails and texts and posts you put on Facebook. You can't really influence someone unless you're talking to them in person or over the phone. And that's why it's so important to me. I want the agent that's actually going to service the lead to be on that phone call. So in those first 2 weeks, I'm having my agents do it. And I know a lot of agents are using third-party companies that do a great job. I know Boomtown even has a service that they provide, which is better than nothing, because I know a lot of agents aren't making 10 calls. They're making maybe 1 call or 2 calls. But the true dysfunction is accountability. If any team leader would take the leads away if their agents weren't working them the way that they wanted them to work them, then the agent would probably either do it or not do it. And we just look for agents on our team that are going to be willing to follow up with those internet leads. That's
excellent. Let's get to that too when we talk about accountability in just a little bit. And what I do want to kind of maybe transition to is really then how you're tracking and measuring all this. You know, I often ask our clients and the agents, I say, hey, do you know what your goals are for next year? And yeah, Andy, I want to hit 20 new transactions. I want to close 20 units next year. I said, okay, well then how many of those are going to come from your online leads? I'm not really sure. How many of them are going to come from specific online lead sources? And so talk to us a little bit about how you analyze your own lead sources and then really what you think a positive ROI looks like for those sources so that people can really understand how to be planning for where their investments are going to go into your
Yeah, so there's a buzzword you used earlier on, and that's reverse engineering. So essentially, we know to date, and this is how our team has ran the last 6 years, that about 1/3 of our deals are going to come off of internet leads that we generate to the team. Those are both Google leads, Facebook, and social media. So any social media site that generates a lead. And then we know that about 1/3 of our deals are going to come from our sphere of influence, and then 1/3 of our deals we would like to see coming from our agent's own prospecting efforts. The biggest differentiator. A third, and a third. And why we do that is despite what market you're in, you know, if you're in a seller's market or a buyer's market or a neutral market, your team's going to survive if you're able to work all 3 of those buckets. If you just live off of one of those buckets, you're going to find in a market shift, which I know we haven't seen one now for about 10 years, but you're going to find in a strong market shift, you're not going to do well. If you just focus on sphere and you're in a market shift and it's a buyer's market, your sellers, which are your sphere, aren't going to want to list with you. You're going to need to find a different way. And so that's where when we joined Boomtown in 2011, we were just coming out of that buyer's market, kind of shifting into a neutral and seller's market. And we were very happy that we were heavy on the buy side. But of course, over the last 3 years, we wished we were heavier on the sell, but I'm glad that we're a third, and a third still from a lead standpoint, because it's helped us be more prepared for when this next buyer's market arrives. The question is specifically that you wanted me to speak to was how we reverse engineer the goal setting. Every agent sets a goal based on income, and it's really important to us to determine why they need any particular income that they mention. And so we do a little bit of like life visioning with them and some life coaching with them. Ultimately, money is simply ones and zeros in a bank account. It's how we choose to use that money that defines the purpose of it. And so it's important to us as we sit down with each agent individually and they define how much income they want to earn, we try to help them see why they need it. And sometimes they want too much. Someone says, I want to make $1 million a year. Or someone comes in and says, I just want to make 20 grand a year. We're going to have a conversation about, well, why do you want to make X? And what if Y made more sense for the goals that you have over the next 12 months? And then we can back into the numbers. So we know, for example, the six-figure number gets thrown around a lot in the Midwest. That might be nationwide. People want to make $100,000 a year selling real estate, not having to work 40 hours a week. And so on our team, that's kind of the dream we sell. We know to do that, they need to do, on average, based on our average sales, they need to do 36 transactions. Well, we then will define those 36 transactions as 12 from internet leads, 12 from their sphere, and 12 from their prospecting efforts. And so you'd assume that'd be 3 deals a month if you took an average per month, but we know that a majority of deals are going to take place in the second and third quarter. So we look at the year past every single January, and when someone says their goal is 50 deals or 20 deals or whatever it is, we then will apply their individual monthly goal based on the percentage of homes that our team had sold the year previous. So if only 10% of homes sell in January, we'll take 10% of their overall unit goal and say, hey, in January you need to do 2 deals. In February, March you need to do 3, but in June, July, August, the hot months, you're going to need to be at 5. And so we reverse engineer even the month in which those sales need to take place so that they can hit their year-end goal. And then we're also very intentional about talking about how much time they spend making their phone calls into each of those categories. So if you want to do a 30-year deals from each of those categories, we argue you need to spend about 1/3 of your time working each of those categories. And so our agents set their call goals based on which categories they want to call. And then we also know from a percentage standpoint, if you pull up, I think you've got our lead on there, if you want to pull up the agent accountability matrix, our AAM, and I believe this is a give that anyone that signed up for this webinar is going to have access to for free on that Boomtown site, right, Andy?
Yeah, it's actually downloadable right now in your window. If you guys want to download, this is actually what Jeff uses to track his agents every day, tracking every day, every month. How do you do it, Jeff?
It's weekly. When an agent reports their numbers with our success coach, they put these numbers into our Google Sheet. And this is actually as of, I think, a week or 2 ago, you can see the last number was 1120, so as of November 20th. And you'll see team totals. We have a page for this for each individual agent. And so when you look over the team totals year to date, this is just our team, not calling assistants. We've made almost 80,000 calls. We've had 15,000 connects with the decision maker. We've gone on 809 appointments. Tracked, we had 444 executed that were inputted. Not all of the deals have been inputted. We also track floaters, meaning it's a contract written but not necessarily executed. We've had 167 of those. 114 new listings were inputted here. And then we have total amount of hours spent prospecting. And the reason we started tracking that is we found the agents that produce at a higher level were using the Mojo dialer. Because with the Mojo line, which now obviously Boomtown has integrated with their software, which has been super helpful, we're able to make 3 times as many calls. But where it all nets out is that we found that it takes about 150 outbound calls to any of these 3 categories to equate to 1 sale. So if an agent wants to have 36 sales, we just take 36 times 150 divided by 50 weeks. We give them 2 weeks of vacation. And it breaks down to, I don't know the math on that, but about 150 calls a week. And then we hold them accountable to making 50 calls a week to each of those categories. So every Monday, and I know we're not in accountability yet, but every Monday our agents report, I can't not talk about it. They have to stand up and report to the team how many calls they made and what their call goal was and how many contacts they had. We know it takes 5 calls to get a contact. And then out of 10 contacts, they go on 1 appointment, and it takes about 1.5 appointments to get a sale. What we found is just simply by being able to meet with someone in person, that pretty much seals the deal, especially on the buy side. And every appointment includes a presentation, either a buyer presentation or a selling presentation. And so our agents have become masters at sharing with people the customer service solution that they provide. And that's the mentality of the real estate salesperson. You're not selling anything. You're selling yourself and the service that you're going to provide to your clients.
Yeah, so a question came in, and this is a good question, Jeff. How do you differentiate between your newer agents and those that have been on the team for a while? Are the goals differently? Do you
absolutely differently?
Do you have different expectations for them?
Yeah, so we take Tim Ferriss's recommendation in the 4-hour work week, and we know the 80-20 rule, which is 20% of that input is going to get you about 80% of the output. And so with each agent that's a seasoned agent or tenured agent, after year 1, we now can look at their analytics and see which area they had the most success. So if 70% of their deals came from Sphere and they want to continue working that Sphere, we'll say, hey, keep putting 70% or 80% of your time to your Sphere and only spend about 20 or 30% of your time in those other buckets. The difference between us and a dysfunction in the industry is a lot of agents want to work as rainmaker agents, and they're not thinking about building a business where other people are servicing the leads. And for anyone that wants to turn their business over to somebody else and be able to exit the day-to-day servicing of the clients, you can't rely just on Sphere, because unfortunately, the Sphere wants Jeff Cohn, and I want them to want Omaha's Elite Real Estate Group. And so I generated, the intention of joining Boomtown was I needed leads to assign to agents, new and seasoned, to help offset or augment their Sphere business that they were already working. And so if somebody just works Sphere, which is something that I see a lot of rainmaker agents do, it puts them in a position where they kind of have these golden handcuffs, because if they leave the business, they're not going to have any business at all. And that's another reason you want to really, even for an agent that does work 70% Sphere and 30% those other buckets, we want to help them continue working those other buckets and show them that eventually they should stop selling altogether. And you don't have very many team leaders telling their seasoned agents, or broker owners telling their seasoned agents, hey, you need a plan to not sell real estate in about the next 3 or 4 years. And as you mentioned, I go out and recruit teams now that are failing teams and help them be more successful with the value adds we have, versus just going after that individual brand new licensed agent.
Yeah, and we see that a lot, even agents that are exiting a little bit, maybe to go take care of personal reasons or work-life balance, and then they're coming back and they're only working their Sphere, and their Sphere, they've been out of the market for a little bit, and trying to re-engage definitely is setting them back, so that they're not able to really tap into their Sphere as much as they had planned when they first left when they took a pause.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, one other thought I have is when we sit down and have these goals for the coming year, and we're looking at the business they did the year before, a lot of times teams aren't tracking where the leads are coming from. They just know their agent sold another house and they made $4,700. We always are asking ourselves, was that a buy or sell side? What was the price? What was the commission payout? Where exactly did the lead come from? We even email the team every time there's a sale to let them know where the lead had come from, who the agent was that executed it, what side it was, buy side or list side. But when you have a whole year's worth of that data, 6 years in a row, we start to see trends of where a majority of our business is coming from within each of these lead categories, and each agent will have a pattern or a trend that they've created. So one agent will have like 7 deals from church, and another will have 7 deals from CrossFit. Well, at the end of the year, a lot of these agents don't know that because they haven't been paying attention, but we are taking advantage of that and, you know, empowering them intentionally with more information to help them make better decisions the next year on where they should spend their time. And the traditional broker that I have personally experienced in my life, when I'd go to them and say, hey, where should I spend my time? They never had an answer for me, because they didn't know where my business was coming from, and they didn't know how I was spending my time. And so for anyone listening, that's going to be a huge thing for you individually, to pay attention to where you're spending your time and track that. And then obviously for anyone leading a team, to track where their agents are spending their time. And it sounds like policing. The reason we do it is we know it's going to help our agents be more successful.
That's a good point. Okay, so we have a lot of people on that are kind of right, and you probably are as well, if you haven't already, been in that business planning for the next year and really starting to use December to do some goal setting. As you mentioned, you sit down with your agents each individually and kind of set those goals, rather than just stick a 15 or a 20% lift in from year before. So talk to us a little bit about how you use your Gecko board and how you do some goal setting. And by the way, audience, what you're about to see is Jeff's real live production numbers. He's sharing with you right now how he uses his an advanced Gecko board that's available in his office at all time, with real-time data that's being displayed. And Jeff, do you mind if I share that with the audience?
No, yeah, this is open source. Anyone has access to this in our local market and nationally. The website link is dashboard@omahaselite.com. Omaha is plural, so just dashboard@omahaselite.com. We have 2 different dashboards, so if you just go to that URL, every 30 or 60 seconds it's going to flip between the 2. If you want to just stay on one, it's actually dashboard1.omahaselite.com or dashboard numeric 2 at omahaselite.com. So the purpose of this is we were huge nerds and love analytics. We love the numbers, and we lived in Excel. And my operations manager, Kevin McGowan, built out this huge Excel master database that we've been living out of for 6 years, and he and I love looking at it. It's exciting to us. To most people, they fall asleep when they look at an Excel spreadsheet of any type. And so we wanted to have a way where the agents would be engaged and excited to look at their numbers, especially their goal numbers, so they were always staring them in their face, not negatively, but simply there to be positive and congratulate the agents that are having success, and of course congratulate the team overall. So you saw it just switched over. So this is the goal Gecko board. It has all of our team's totals. Obviously you see the time up there on the top left. Our year-to-date unit total is 774 transactions. You'll see our team goal. Our yearly goal was 769, so we've already beat our year goal this year. We're at almost 150 million in volume. Yeah, 138 was our goal. It shows year to date where we're at, 12 units. Our goal month to date in December says 12 units, and our goal is 40. And then it shows our overall average commissions and our overall average commission payout as a percentage. But then we have each agent listed. I know it's going to flip here any second, but we have each agent listed, and if their little button at the bottom turns green, which you saw that one was green on the top left, that shows that they're at or above their goal for that month. And so the entire month, those numbers are staring them in the face, and those are simply unit goals. It's based on when it goes under contract. It's not based on when it closes. There you go.
So this is real-time data we're looking at.
This is today. Yep, right now. And anyone can look at this anytime if you're ever curious of just looking at our Gecko board. The Gecko board solution is around $50 a month if anyone thinks about joining. I know there's other brokerages that have, I think KW has a solution like this, but we did a lot of research on this and talked to a lot of top teams, and this was the best one that we could find, and it integrates with Google Sheets. So it's really simple to use. You just have to create your own Google Sheet that then directs to each of these little squares, which they call widgets. And then you'll see our team's unit totals. So I have teams within teams and individual agents listed on the left in unit sales. You'll see Team Horacek has 75 units today, and then all the way down in order of most to least units. And then the same goes to the production on the far right. Those are the teams and individual agents production from most production to least production. So of course, your high Ds and those that are competitive on the team want to be at the top of that list. It's exciting. But we also have incentives. So commission splits change based on where the person's at in production. And there's team trips that are only out there offered to people that hit certain unit levels or certain production levels every year. And so we have a lot of different things surrounding these numbers, so we make these numbers very useful and applicable in our office space. The other slide,
a long way from the whiteboard, Jeff.
Yeah, and we were literally 2 years ago, we were a whiteboard. And there's a lot of teams still using whiteboards. They worked really well. They just were a lot of work. They're a pain in the butt. And as you add someone or move someone, you have to, erase it all. It's just ridiculous, right? So the Gecko board's been great. The other board, real quick, Andy, speaks to our analytics. We found that our agents weren't talking with their potential clients about our analytics very often because it's not as sexy as maybe to you or I. They don't enjoy the numbers as much and don't see use in them. So we wanted to have a board that they could access easily from their phone that would share all the numbers if they wanted to discuss those numbers with the client. So you'll see across the top it's the same as the previous board, but the next line is specific to listings. So it shows how many listings we've sold this year, and then it shows what production level of our sales was listing. So you'll see about 33% of our deals, actually 37% were listings and 63% are buy side, and that's a nice number to know. We also have taken it even further to be able to discuss with the potential seller how many people have to physically go through their house on average before they're going to have an executed contract. And so then selling the property is not a matter of anything more than marketing it the right way to get a certain number of people through. If you scroll up a little bit more, it'll show us that number. I think it's going to be around 8 or 14. It's one of those two. 15 is overall days on market, and then 8 is the total number of showings that we need to have before a house goes under contract. And then on the buy side, we're also tracking how many showings we go on with a buyer before the house goes under contract, and the number 6. So we know for 486 transactions, the average buyer looked at 6 homes before going under contract. So how many homes do you think my agents make sure they show someone the first time they go out? At least 6. Because we know on average it takes 6 showings to go under contract. I always recommend 8. You can usually show in our market for 2 hours. You can get through 8 houses. I don't want to have my agent go out a second time or a third time. And in a seller's market, these homes are selling quick. It's still a seller's market here in Omaha. We'd rather get them under contract the first day they go out and look at property. And then, you guys can look into it. We have more data that I don't need to necessarily talk on specifically, but you will see at the very bottom there, the 80,000, 16,000, 839, that is a reflection of our agent accountability matrix. So it shows our team's overall calls. And then at the very bottom is showing our team's overall unit sales. So you can put anything you want in your Gecko board, and through our coaching company, we now have a lot of clients that are using Gecko, and they've taken it even further than we've taken it. The sky truly is the limit. If you do a Google search of Gecko board images, you'll see that there's like huge tech companies and industry leaders, factories, all sorts of things tracking all sorts of different analytics, and they have really neat widgets that you could build into it. This is year 2 for us, so I'm sure this will continue to advance as the years go by.
Yeah, Kevin's done a great job with this one.
Yeah, it's awesome. He did.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the diversification. So as you were talking earlier, you kind of do a third, and you've analyzed down to how many call attempts it makes, to how many contacts are being made, how many appointments are coming out there. Do you see fluctuation in this, either seasonality or year over year, or does it look pretty consistent that you've kind of got this down to a science?
It's been that we've been tracking this very intentionally for 3 years, and these numbers haven't changed. Where you'll see a change, and this also speaks to the return on investment tracker, is based on lead categories. So, of course, if you are referred deals from your grandma's bunco group, you're going to probably close 1 out of every 2 bunco referrals. Versus if it's a Google AdWord or a squeeze page on Craigslist coming in, we are only closing like 1.2% of those. So obviously there's going to be a difference in those relationships, but as an average across all lead sources and off all different types of calls agents are making, it's stayed very consistent. 20%, call to contacts 20%, contact to appointments 10%, and then it's about over 50% of face-to-face appointments that convert into sales. And when you can get down to those specific numbers, then you pretty much, your goal is to get in front of people. And everyone's always said that, but now to have analytics that back that conversation up, and people always ask, well, where do you get in front of them? Anywhere they're willing to get in front of you, their office, your office, a house. If they ask to see one house, say, great, I'd love to show it to you. I also have a quick 20-minute presentation while we're at the home that I'd like to share with you. And then, of course, a listing presentation. And the best time to do a listing presentation is today. It doesn't matter when they need to sell. They still need to see the service you provide so they can make a decision of working with you or not, independent of when they'll be ready to sell their home.
Yeah, that's amazing. And a couple of things too that I hear that continues to resonate is that you really do understand and know this data. And this data obviously is sourcing out of Boomtown and through your accountability matrix. And those tools are available to everyone here on this call. So able to really be able to get to where your goals are. I mean, Jeff, how would you do that without not really understanding these sources and these numbers and where you've been?
I think there's a lot of people listening that are very, very successful that haven't taken their business to this level. And I think that you can continue being very, very successful. But I know for anyone that chooses to apply these systems, because I've watched other successful teams decide to take on the extra work that's necessary to track everything, you'll double your business in 12 months. You'll be able to get more intentional in the areas where maybe you were having success that you didn't realize it, and then other areas where you thought you were having success, but you were losing money. And so everything you see here isn't that hard. It's just a function. So we hired a very intelligent operations manager that was very analytical and had great skills when it came to Excel. You can find someone in your own marketplace, I'm sure, that can run an Excel spreadsheet. And then we literally just tracked every single transaction. Now there's other third-party products, a lot of them out there, but the one we're using is Dotloop for Teams. And like Andy mentioned, that's all. Dotloop's now integrated with Boomtown. There's going to be a lot of great reporting features, I think, that are already out or are going to be coming out soon that connect to all the data and the information. The dysfunction is that teams don't have access or control of their agents. And so the agents are running in the wild, wild west converting deals, and the team leader or owner isn't tracking those deals, doesn't know where they came from, doesn't know how many calls the person had to make to get the deal. They really don't know what's going on other than that there was a real estate transaction and they made a commission. And that has really, I feel like, it handicapped the growth for a lot of organizations to not have that data. And they don't have the data because they haven't made it a requirement. And they haven't made it a requirement because they've intentionally or unintentionally chosen to not be intentional about tracking because they don't believe it's going to empower them. So my biggest hope of a webinar like this is that someone out there leaves today and says, you know what, I think I'm going to try tracking in 2018 and apply it, and then let us know the success stories that come from all the data that you're able to capture in 2018.
So thinking of the clients that you coach, Jeff, then how many specifically do you think come in and kind of have this already defined? What percentage of your even coaching clients do you really just sit down and start really developing these kind of data practices?
We've never had a coaching client that's come in and had all these pieces together. What we found with our workshops that we host monthly, as well as all of our full-time coaching clients, is that a lot of them have pieces of this. And I think most of the people on the webinar today have probably identified with something we've talked on and said, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm really good at that. Or maybe you even have a better solution than what we're implementing. But it's very rare to find someone that puts it all together. And that's where magic happens, is by piecing all of these things together, you'll find that you'll see exponential growth. And I'm talking in the 100%, 1x or 2xing, 3xing your last year's numbers if you can start implementing some of these simple techniques. And it doesn't take a ton of time. It's usually one position. I mean, an operations manager and an accountability coach, which you can serve as one or both of those functions. I was doing both of those functions for about first or second year in the business. Anyone out there listening can do this. It's not, as you see, like our spreadsheets, and I don't know if you want to throw the ROI one up there, Andy, they're just Excel spreadsheets. There's nothing magical about them. The agent accountability matrix we're giving you guys is pretty simple, a few little formulas. The thing that makes it special is that we're doing it. We're tracking it on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So this is our ROI tracker. It's pretty simple. We essentially just every year we allocate a certain spend to certain lead sources based on the year before's success. Usually I take 70% of whatever's the most successful lead source and I'll put $6,500 towards that. And that last year for us was Boomtown paid ads, which is about 80% Google ads and 20% Facebook ads. And then we'll put a little bit of money every year towards Craigslist. You'll see about $450 a month. And then you'll see we do ProQuest, which is an IVR sign writer. We did Dave Ramsey, which we quit that program this year. We didn't have very much success with it. We have ZBuyer. But the big ones for us have continued to be Facebook, Google ads, and Craigslist. And we have not really had a lot of success with Realtor.com or Zillow. When I say not success, we've never lost money on any lead source. It's not really a question of if it's profitable. It's always been profitable. It's how profitable is it, but not only on the investment, that's your ROI, but also on time, which is your ROT. And so with some lead sources, you can buy the leads really inexpensively, like Craigslist, but they may take a little bit more time. But the interesting fact is when you go down and look at our conversion ratios, they don't change that much from Boomtown paid ads, which is Facebook and AdWords, versus Craigslist. Craigslist is a little bit lower, 1.09%, versus Boomtown paid ad, 1.41. And I will mention, when you look at these conversion ratios, this is for every lead that ever registered, including Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy. So even if it's a bad email and bad phone number, we're still calling it a lead. I know there's people that track this and they only call it like real leads or real potential opportunity. What are you talking about, real leads? Like, I had to pay for every one of these people to click and register, so I call all of those people leads. And then it's just a function of knowing if it's a 1.4%, which I think last year we were at about 2%. I know if I give an agent 50 leads a month, which is what we're averaging right now, they should be able to sell one house a month from the leads I give them, which goes all along with the reverse engineering of our goals, which is a third of their deals is coming from internet leads, and I'm giving them enough leads so that they can convert one every month. And we know we have agents that will do 20 deals off of this. One agent will get 20 conversions in a year off Boomtown, and one will only get 5. And now we're going to start inspecting what we expect and find that the agent that only got 5 made 2 calls or didn't send enough texts or didn't follow up on month 3 and month 4, and it shows you the dysfunctions as well that are existing within your team.
So let me back you up in just a quick second and talk a little bit about how you diversify between your Google paid ads as well as your Facebook advertising with Boomtown.
Okay.
You're kind of at an 80-20 mix. How did you get there? What were some of the lessons that you learned? When did you decide to actually start investing in Facebook leads, and how have you seen the difference in the return in the 2 different sources?
Great questions. These come up a lot. Right from the get-go in 2011, we put $1,000 a month towards Google ads, and we've never stopped. They've been one of our least expensive lead sources. Right now, I think I'm spending, it's probably on there, around $1 a click. I think it's $10, less than $10 a lead, so it's about $1 a click. It's ranged from like a 10% click to lead conversion ratio down to 6%. It just depends on where those ads are running. And so to spend $10 to get a lead and be able to convert at 3%, which is what we've been averaging until about a year ago, that's incredible return on investment. I mean, I'm spending $330 to get a lead that averages out at $5,400, of which I'm keeping half, which is like $2,700. And the beauty of all of it is I'm not even paying to generate the leads. My marketing service partners are paying. I'm raising about $12,000 a month in MSA contribution. So it's an infinite return, and it's a huge value add to my agents to be able to be on a team where they can work their sphere, but then augment their numbers year end with some leads that are coming from internet leads that we generate to them. Of course, the splits are less. It's 50-50 when we generate the lead. But what's awesome with our agents is we allow them to then keep that as their sphere. So when our numbers show that like 50 or 60% of our deals are coming from sphere, I would say over half of those at some point were Boomtown leads. So had we never allowed those people to keep those as sphere, we'd be running at about 60 or 70% Boomtown internet leads right now.
Gotcha. There's a question that came in as well about Craigslist. What have you learned with Craigslist? How do you utilize Craigslist?
Yeah, so we started about 5 years ago using someone in the office to post to Craigslist every day. She was posting about 50 houses and came to us crying one day and said she can't do it any longer. And obviously she was in the wrong role, and I don't blame her. I couldn't do it either. So we decided to take it overseas. We have a gentleman, Alberto, who does that for us. It's about $300 or $400 a month. It depends on how many houses you want him to post. But we post 100 houses every day. And they post from 3 IP addresses, from 5 different login accounts, and they have to post from your physical market, so they have to use TeamViewer to sync into a computer within like 30 miles of your city based on the IP address, and then they're posting all day long, and we've had a great success. I mean, you can look on the ROI tracker there. We've done a ton of transactions this year off of Craigslist, and the thing that we found is people are people. It doesn't matter if they decided to go down the rabbit hole of Facebook, Google, Craigslist, Zillow, Realtor.com. At the end of the day, they were bored and decided to look at houses because they know they might buy or sell in the future, and they ended up on your website. So the conversations are no different than essentially connecting the dots of where the lead came from. But from a conversion standpoint, from a lead standpoint, we haven't seen a lot of differentiation. The thing on Craigslist, for a long time, people quit using it because you could no longer use active links to redirect to a squeeze page. And we don't use an active link. If you go to the Omaha Craigslist, anyone can get there, real estate for sale by broker, just search for homes. You'll see like every third house is listed by Omaha's Elite Real Estate Group. When they click on that link, we're using Boomtown's code, and it lands them on a squeeze page. Whereas normally when someone goes on the Boomtown site, I think they have to click around a little bit before the splash page comes up. The nice thing about Craigslist is it does the splash page right away. So when they get redirected, they've now taken the time to copy and paste the URL into a separate browser, and they're forced to register to be able to have access to everything they want that's right behind that splash page. And we found that a majority are registering, but that's why the conversion ratio is a little lower, is because we're forcing more people to register right when they land there versus clicking around a little bit.
Okay, so let's talk about one of your favorite topics, which is all around accountability. So as we're heading into the new year, you know, a lot of agents get in this business to really kind of have personal freedom and to manage their own, manage their business and have the flexibility that they need. So that's often confused with having accountability. Maybe you can kind of tell us what you do and what you found successful in holding your agents accountable, you know, not just for the goals, but again, how often?
People hear the word accountability and assume rules, laws, you know, and they assume that it's going to be someone that's going to come to them and they're going to get kicked off the team, or they're going to go into warning stage, probation, whatever you want to call it. For us, accountability was really success coaching. It was an environment that we wanted to create to help people lead and live the life of their dreams. And we talk about this every week. We have vision boards the first of every year, which on this year I think is like the 15th or 18th of January. We're going to be meeting as a team, and everyone, and there's about over 50 people, including agents and staff, and they're going to share their vision board. That's like their life's dreams and goals. And then we're able to tie together how many calls they need to make the money to be able to live and lead that life of their dreams that's on their vision board. So when someone on the team stands up and says their call goal is 150, but this week we only made 30, ha ha ha, I don't ha 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 along with them. I ask them which item they'd like to remove from their vision board. Because to me, it's not a laughing matter. Like, you not making your calls, agent, you just essentially told the universe that you don't want to reach all of the goals that's on your vision board, and you're not only robbing yourself, you're robbing your family and all the people that look up to you and the people that you're supporting. And that's the guilt. It's not me as the team lead saying, you know, individually, personally saying, hey, you not making the calls is going to affect me. I'm good. I own 10 different businesses. I don't need the agents to be successful. They need themselves to be successful. They're setting their own goal. So if someone consistently isn't hitting their call goal, Andy, our success coach, who's done a phenomenal job the last couple of years, and he's also a coach with our coaching company, with our coaching clients, he's going to meet each agent every week, and he might change the goal. If they're missing the goal, we need to move the goal. Or if they're crushing their goal every week, we need to move the goal the other direction. But it's not us holding them accountable like the bad guy. We're really just a cheerleader to help them be the most successful they can be. And that's the thought process constantly when it comes to the value that you offer your agents. There's only 3 things that are going to help you in your growth if you're a team lead. And that's recruiting, retaining by offering value, and training your agents to be the very best that they can be. And the best means being able to create a customer service solution so that everyone in your marketplace not only uses you and your team, but also refers you and your team. And so you have to think about, how do you continue to reinvest in your business and into your agents so that people are going to continue to want the value that you can provide?
Absolutely. You know, and a lot of times what we hear, even as we're coaching clients as well, is, you know, being able to hold them accountable. If that word is not the word that you're looking for, that doesn't feel right, right? I just call it professional development, right? So where do you want to go, and how are we going to get you there? And the numbers really kind of prove themselves.
Absolutely. Yep. And then functionally, you know, we do the weekly where everyone can stand up in front of the team, and when they have a sale, everyone claps for them. They tell how many hours they prospect. Really, it's a function of subconsciously they know for every 7 days they're going to have an accounting in front of all their peers, and everyone's working together to support each other. But then also that week, there's going to be a 20-minute meeting with our success coach, face-to-face, sit down, and then we're opening up Boomtown, and we're going into each agent's individual hot nurture watch archive. And we're going to see if there's anything out of date. So if it shows that there's 7 leads in nurture that haven't been called in the last 15 days, we're making a notation of it. And if we see that this is a consistent pattern, we'll start pulling leads from them. So we're using the Boomtown system directly to be able to make sure and ensure that all the agents are treating the leads the way that they need to. And this doesn't just apply to internet leads. If you guys are listening still, be very intentional with listening to what I'm saying. Boomtown, the best solution of Boomtown is not just its ability to generate leads, more so its ability to help you convert the leads. And that doesn't just apply to internet leads. Probably more importantly is its ability to help your agents convert leads from their sphere of influence and their own prospecting efforts. And our agents treat all the leads the same way, independent of which lead source they came from.
Excellent. I'm going to wrap it up real quickly and just bring a couple of questions from the audience. One person has asked, can you talk about how you have a 65 to 35% buyer-seller ratio? What's your strategy there? They're working kind of a 50-50 type ratio. Can you explain a little bit more?
So in a seller's market, you want to be 100% seller, and in a buyer's market, you want to be 100% buyer, but it's not realistic to swing that strongly. I think 50-50 is a great blend. I think anywhere between 50-50 to 60-40 either direction. We have not been intentional on getting to where we are today. We simply have let the agents go after what they want to go after. We don't require an agent to work buy side, list side, to work any specific category. We're all about best practices, and we recommend to the agents what we believe will help them the most, individually and as a group. But it's up to the agent to decide where they want to go. So I think we lean stronger towards the buy side because the majority of the leads we're generating off of the internet are buyer leads. And that's simply the response. Also, we have a younger team. I think our average age is probably mid-30s to later 30s. And because of that, typically agents are leaning more on their friends and colleagues who are just buying their first property and really aren't in a home in a situation that they need to sell.
Yeah, and one more question, and just kind of a wrap up here. Jeff, tell us again one more time what kind of the metrics are that you have found to get from calls to contacts to appointments to deals to close.
The metrics specifically they're all in the agent accountability matrix, and so we set the call goal based on knowing that it's about every 150 call attempts equals one executed contract. So if an agent wants to do, let's say, 36 contracts in a year to make 6 figures, you just take the 36 executed number, that's their goal, multiplied by 150 calls per contract, and then break that down over 50 weeks. So you divide that by 50 weeks, and then that would give you the weekly amount of calls that agent should make.
So again, everyone, just a reminder that this accountability matrix is available to you. You can download it from right here inside the webinar panel, or we will be giving it to you as a giveaway, as well as a recording of this webinar post-session. So look for an email from Boomtown in the next 24 hours. We'll have this webinar recorded. We'll also have this accountability matrix available for you to start using as you go into 2018. And so just to kind of wrap up, first of all, Jeff, I want to say thank you so much for being with us today. Obviously, Jeff is one of our coaches. He has his own coaching organization as well, EliteRealEstateSystems.com. So feel free to go out there and ask any information that you have regarding his live stream training, which is all virtual training done weekly, his agent and team leader workshops, which are monthly workshops held in his Omaha office, as well as weekly podcasts. And then the last thing that I would say too is we have other learning opportunities available to you coming up, where Jeff is going to be working with us here at Boomtown to share some more knowledge. So if you're in the Phoenix or Scottsdale area, Arizona area, Jeff is going to be a keynote speaker as well as conducting a workshop at our regional training event that is coming up in January 25th and 26th. We also have out on our website in our Driven series with Rivers Pierce, there's a great 30-minute interview that Rivers did with Jeff as well that talks a little bit more about how he's been successful using Boomtown, as well as what he's done to kind of grow his team to become the #1 team in Omaha, Nebraska. Jeff, we just want to say thank you so much information that you've provided for us today. Any parting words?
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to give as a benefit to anyone that's on Boomtown, our January 22nd workshop, we're going to make available to all boomers at 50% off. Usually it's $29.97. We're going to make it available for $14.97. So to learn more about it, I know Andy shared the link, but it's EliteRealEstateSystems.com. Would love to have you come out, check out the workshop. Andy's actually going to be at our workshop next Monday, and it's a great time. We go over culture, leads, accountability, systems and strategies to help you scale your business, and you get to spend a couple hours with me and a few hours with both my direct reports, Andy and Kevin, who are our operations managers and accountability coaches. And you guys, we'd love to see you at Elite Real Estate Systems. If you're looking for additional coaching, we're doing it a different way, the modern coaching for the modern agent, where we're live streaming all of our team's trainings every Wednesday and Friday. And then we have a specific team leader, broker, owner training that we offer exclusively and privately to team leaders and broker owners every Thursday. So check out the website and learn more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Again, this recording will be available for you in the next 24 hours. In the meantime, if you have any questions about coaching services here at Boomtown, and what we're trying to do is we bring more knowledge out to our clients as well as our coaching partners, then feel free to give me send me an email located here. Thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon, and we look forward to bringing you more and exciting content as we get into the new year.